Jephre. When the elven folk walked the land alone and sang songs of power amongst the trees and stars, Jephre the singer walked with them. Jephre gave heed to the nature of the forests and delighted in the gurgling streams and brooks. It was Jephre who taught the birds to sing their songs of the season, and he that taught the streams the tinkling ethereal tune. The very trees are said to have moved closer to hear him sing on the warm summer nights of those elder days. It was in this time that the first great ballads of the elves were made, crafted from songs that Jephre taught to the sylvan youths who frolicked to his lively tunes and ballads of nature in the unspoiled forests. In truth, he is worshipped as the god of song and forest. In Valenwood, Jephre is considered one of the major sylvan gods, with the temples and altars in the deep woodland places. Elven traditions hold that children with a gift for songs have been blessed by Jephre himself. Legend has it he blessed the wood elves with a natural affinity for nature, and particularly the forest. Most wood elf rangers worship Jephre. It was his great eagerness for natural beauty that led him to the Isle of Somerset. He taught the great seabirds to sing, and molded the crash of waves against beach into a song of whispers and power. It is said by the high elves that Jephre hears and sees all within distance of water, whether it be beach, brook, stream, or fall. It is further said that the very birds keep watch for Jephre in repayment for the songs he taught them. It is further said that he blessed the high elves with a beauty to match the beauty of their island home. The dark elves have a legend that Jephre walked the earth before the first day, and in the light of the stars weaved a song so beautiful that the very stars moved to its sway. Some of the stars to this day still wink and blink in memory of the song of night and darkness. Due to his influence, most, if not all, elven bards pay homage to Jephre. The natural order of things is the basis for Jephre's temples in Valenwood and the Somerset Isle. The one thing Jephre will not tolerate is the harmful manipulation of the natural order of things, and that was of Jephre. The Old Ways by Solaris. A guide to the Psijic order and their beliefs, the customs and philosophy of grave and faithful counsel. We who know the old ways are well aware of the existence of a spiritual world invisible to the unenlightened. Just as one living in a kingdom, but unaware of the political machinations, may see a new tax or battle preparations as capricious fortune, many observe floods, famines, and madness with helpless incomprehension. This is deplorable. As the great Sulian Darnizahan moaned, the power of ignorance can truly shatter mithril like glass. What, after all, is the origin of these spiritual forces that move the invisible strings of Mundus? Any neophyte of Artaeum knows that the spirits of our ancestors, and that, while living, they too were bewildered by the spirits of their ancestors, and so, on the original Akarai, the Daedra and their gods, the common people, turned to are no more than the spirits of superior men and women whose power and passion granted them great influence in the phantom world. Certainly this is our truth and our religion. But how does it help us in our sacred duty to self-rule Sneh or provide grave and faithful counsel? Firstly, we can easily grasp the necessity of both bringing good men great power and making powerful men good. We recognize the multiple threats that a strong tyrant represents. He breeds cruelty, which feeds the Daedra Boethia, and the hatred which feeds the Daedra Varnima. If he die performing a particularly malevolent act, he may go to rule in oblivion. Worst of all, he inspires other villains to power and other rulers to villainy. Knowing this, we have developed patience in our dealings with such despots. They should be crippled, humiliated, impoverished, imprisoned. Other counselors than we may advocate assassination or warfare, which, aside from its spiritual significance, is expensive, electric, and likely to cause at least as much pain to innocents as the brutish dictator was inflicting. No, we are intelligence gatherers, dignified diplomats, not revolutionaries. How then are our counselors faithful? We are faithful only to the old ways. It is essential always to remember the spiritual world in watching our world, performing the rites of Mowita on the second of Hearthfire, and the Vrigdal on the first or second seed are essential means of empowering the solitary ghosts and debilitating the unclean spirits. How then are we faithful to those we counsel and to the Isle of Artaeum? Perhaps the sage Teritai said it best. In Mundus, conflict disparity is what brings changes, and change is most sacred of all the elfic forces. Change is the force without focus or origin, and it is the duty of the disciplined Psijic enlightened one to dilute changes where it brings greed, gluttony, sloth, ignorance, prejudice, cruelty. Terate lists the 111 prodigalities, and to encourage change where it brings excellent beauty, happiness, and enlightenment. As such, the faithful council has but one master in mind. If the man, the Psijic council, acts wickedly and brings Ognathir bad change and will not be cancelled, it is the Psijic's duty to counterbalance the Ognathir by any means necessary. A student of the way may indeed vassal himself to a lord, but it is a risky relationship. Should the lord refuse wise counsel and order the Psijic to use Terate's outmoded word to perform an act contrary to the teachings of the old ways, there are a few available options. The Psijic may abandon his lord, which will bring shame on him and the Isle of Artaeum, and so may he never be allowed home again. The Psijic may also kill himself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was The Old Ways on Lycanthropy by Varnard Karenson. How does one become interested in studying the disease lycanthropy? I have interviewed a number of my peers and discovered that to a man, they all have entered the field after a horrifying encounter with a lycanthrope of some variety. I am no exception. In Skyrim, it is an old tradition to rub canis root on the trees surrounding your house as a ward against werebears. When I was young and stupid, as opposed, I guess, to being old and stupid as I am now, I always had hoped to meet a werebear to see if they were as impressive as legend suggested. I would follow strange tracks in the woods until they disappeared, with no fear or even thought about what I would do after I had found my quarry. But by Thorig's beard, I was lucky that my investigations were fruitless. When I finally did see a lycanthrope, it was not a werebear, it was a werewolf, the common lycanthrope, which can be found in every part of Tamriel. My father was a priest, and during the coldest part of winters, he allowed the beggars and riffraff of Falkreath to stay in the relative warmth of the cellar of his temple. He would even supply warm barley stew. My sisters and brothers and I actually enjoyed this bit of philanthropy, for in the cellars during the winter it seemed that there was a constant party. There were always travelers with interesting stories and eccentricities, and the atmosphere in the cellar was always light and friendly, until that night. By an established tradition, the beggars who were sick or wanted rest more than food and companionship would go to the cots in the farthest, darkest end of the cellar, when they could be assured, at least, relative quiet. We were enjoying a song, and my sister Gathessa was dancing to the amusement of all. The song ended, but a chorus continued from the darkness at the far end of the cellar. As drunk and incomprehensible as most of the carolers were, it took me a minute to realize the sound we were hearing was not singing, but screaming. No one was too concerned, for some of the older tramps often suffered from vivid nightmares. Nevertheless, one of the father's priests went to silence the screamer, and at the moment he disappeared into the murk. We heard another sound, the snarl of a wolf. Then we heard the priest scream as the original scream died off. "Werewolf," he cried, the old bard who had been leading the song. The cellar exploded into chaos. I was pushed out of the cellar door onto the snow with the first wave of panic, but I could see that some of the more brave or drunk hobos were rushing into the darkness to do battle with a lycanthrope. They were all, of course, almost instantly killed. My father, upon hearing of his unwelcome visitor, sealed off the cellar after the last survivor of the carnage had left. A seasoned battle mage from Falkreath, Mage's Guild, who owed father a favor, went into the cellar and slew the beast. Not too tough, he said, as he emerged, carrying the carcass with him. Winter must have been very tough on him, too. Despite his bold words, the blood on his face and chest did not only come from his foe. Werewolves do not revert to their human forms upon death, despite what legends will tell you. I had the opportunity to look at the monster's steaming body out in the snow before it was carried away to be burned. The teeth, clotted with the flesh of the beggars, were horrifying, but the claws shocked me even more. I've since seen live lycanthropes battle golems, atronachs, and other beings not harmed by mundane weapons, and concluded that they act as naturally enchanted weapons. Because the werewolf is the most ubiquitous of lycanthropes, the term lycanthropy has been used since ancient days to describe the disease that transforms men into half-beasts. Although lycanthrope only strictly should refer to men who change into werewolves, but that is semantics. There are certainly differences between the 7 documented forms of lycanthropy in Tamriel, but more similarities. In Black Marsh in southern Morrowind, were-crocodiles stalk the swamps. Black Marsh also shares with the Imperial Province and the wetter parts of elsewhere the vile presence of were-lions. Valenwood's were-vultures are not found in any other province. The were-boar has been found both the climate of High Rock and Hammerfell amenable. As I mentioned before, the were-bear is the most common lycanthrope in Skyrim, and is often found in the northern parts of High Rock, the Imperial Province, and Morrowind. The werewolf can be found in every province. The 7th lycanthrope, which I have never seen, but my trusted peers have assured me exists, is a were-shark that roams the oceans around Tamriel. I've spent my life categorizing and observing lycanthropes, but I sometimes feel that I'm still a child trapped in a cellar in my attempts to understand them. I know, for example, that lycanthropy can be cured shortly after infection, but after that time, the victim is doomed. Not only one of my acquaintances has cured themselves, no one of my acquaintances has cured themselves after undergoing the first transformation. On the other hand, I have a colleague investigating a coven of witches in the Glenpoint foothills of High Rock who are rumored to have a cure. I remain dubious. Perhaps it is because they are doomed that makes lycanthropes so aggressive. I removed the contents of a werewolf's stomach and found more remnants of roots and berries than animal flesh. My conclusion is that they do not mean to attack and devour humans to survive, yet, for some reason they do. Does lycanthropy drive them mad, or do lycanthropes feel the need to spread the disease as a form of procreation? I do not know. I'm not certain that any of us who are not lycanthropes ourselves will ever know, and then of course, it's too late. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was on lycanthropy. And that is also the end of today's bonus episode, so thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.